Hey folks, it's Laura with Raintree Nursery. We are here at northwestfruit.org in Mount Vernon, Washington. They are having an open field day, and part of what they do during their spring and fall field days is they offer classes on how to maintain all the kinds of things you might need to maintain in your orchards. And I'm standing here next to Bill Pierce, who has very graciously decided to allow us to learn a little bit about how to maintain espalier fruit trees. So, Bill, thank you very much for showing our viewers how it's done.
Yep.
I'm going to kind of let him go ahead and do his work and learn along with you. Take it away.
Okay, so I want to show you this espalier we have here, which is really quite a mature tree. This tree is probably 25 years old.
Wow.
And it's been grown over a period of years and maintained by a number of volunteers over that time. The most important thing to understand with an espalier is that you're trying to trade the energy that would normally go into the vegetative growth for a tree, and you're trying to save some of that energy or more of that energy for fruit, which is going to grow on these very tight little branches off of the main cordons that you create for the espalier. And so it's an energy thing. We're trying to actually generate the most fruiting spurs, the closest that we can to the cordons in order to get fruit. And the espalier is a wonderful form because, if you think about, well, what do you try to get when you prune a tree? You try to get light and you try to get air into that tree. And if you have a two-dimensional tree which is growing in a flat plane, well, you've got both of those things, especially if you're oriented in a north-south fashion. You get the morning sun on one side, the afternoon sun on the other side, and you get all this light and air into the tree to allow it to grow the fruit. The most important thing when you're maintaining these, and some people say you almost want to come out and prune these weekly. But I tend to think, well, if I get to it maybe a couple of times in the summer, that'll be good enough. A lot of people think that you need to really cut this quite often in order to be able to maintain the form and have these fruiting spurs develop. And so a typical example of that would be right here, where we now have a small branch coming off of a cordon, and on this branch we have some fruiting spurs down close to the branch, and then we have a short piece of branch which is maybe about a year old, and then this bit right here, which is another short branch. This is all this year's growth. In fact, it's probably from just a few months ago.
Yeah, I'm gonna
all this is growing.
Poke my nose in right here. I can see that there's a collar, a branch collar, and the wood looks different, right? So I'm really looking for both the difference in the color of the bark and also I can see that was cut at one point, and this is obviously new growth, right? So that's how I identify where I want to come through and cut again, right?
That's right. That's
awesome.
Right.
Okay.
So yeah, you can identify this, as you said, had grown out. Someone cut it off right here, and then the bud that was just behind where they made that cut, that bud is now pushed. But it's decided when it pushed that it was going to push vegetatively. And it was going to grow, a long vegetative shoot like this, rather than, as we have further down the branch, a couple of fruiting buds where we're going to produce fruit. So in order to maintain this, if I let these grow over time, well, my tree is going to become more and more like a regular tree.
Yeah, it's going to get all these really long branches, and you're not going to be able to get this elegant form, right?
Right, and it won't have that compact form in the two dimensions to get all that light and air in.
Yeah.
As well as just having a pleasant shape that you can have in your garden.
Nice.
Yeah, so in this case, what I'm going to do as a sort of a summer maintenance cut is I'm gonna find where on this branch. I'm going to go back toward the root of the branch, and I'm going to say, oh, is there a fruiting bud here? Now, Do your viewers understand the difference between fruiting and vegetative buds?
Probably not. Run us through that, would you?
Sure. So a fruiting bud is generally, the way you identify them is they tend to be sort of fat, pointy buds coming off of the branch, whereas a vegetative bud tends to be a lot smaller, kind of closely held to the branch.
Oh, yeah.
And especially when you go out in winter, you can almost hardly see them because they're just little things
They're
next to the
super
branch.
flat,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. But
Yeah.
if you see a nice kind of healthy looking bud that's maybe 3-4 millimeters long and kind of pointy, that's probably a fruiting bud. And that's what's going to develop in the spring and grow out, and it will leaf out, or actually it will flower and leaf out, and that's where your fruit will develop.
That you're basically building a spur, right?
That's right. On an espalier, what you're trying to establish are these little structures we call fruiting spurs, and that's over time when the buds grow year after year. That's where the fruit is growing off of these little spurs. And so we want to have sort of a maximize our concentration of spurs and to some degree minimize enough extraneous vegetative growth that we're getting just mostly these fruiting spurs with enough vegetation and leaves to feed them, but not so much that we're going way out of form and putting a lot of energy into that sort of growth.
Okay.
So in order to encourage more of these fruit buds to grow and to get a little bit longer, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back from that where that first bud is going. I'm going to look for a fruit bud. So I've got a vegetative bud here, vegetative bud, and then I come down here. Oh, look, there's a nice pointy fruit bud. So I'm actually going to cut this off just above that fruit bud. And now I just have these vegetative growth. I've taken all this growth off, and now next year hopefully that fruit bud will fruit, and then the year after that it'll fruit again, and as it does it'll grow this little fruiting spur which may fruit for quite a few years.
Nicely done. Now, how long would you say you work on this? And you said a couple of times during the summer.
Yes. Yeah, you'll have to come back. You just watch the tree's vigor, and when you start getting branches that are growing maybe any more than 6 inches or so, or even 3 inches too far away from your cordon, that's when you want to start and go through a pass and clip some of those back.
Nice. And I love that. I don't see that as a burden. I like coming out and sort of building a relationship with the tree and seeing how it's doing, talking to it while I'm doing a little bit of pruning, and I feel like it kind of encourages the idea of a partnership between the two of us. We're working together to make this beautiful form that will be healthy and also productive.
Yeah. And what you'll find is that we're working with espaliers. You're an artist. You're working with a live medium. I'm also a wood carver, and I think there's a similarity between those things.
Interesting.
That you're removing material to create a particular form, and you're creating art, and this is just living art.
Yeah, what a great thing. Thanks for joining us. It's Laura with Raintree Nursery at northwestfruit.org. We'll see you next time.